You're listening to a replay of Zack and Evan on Zradio Llive.
Welcome back into Zack and Evan here on Zradio Llive. We continue on with the show, and we have a very special guest joining us here. He is the author and he's the founder of Clean Law Private Safer Network. Think of it kind of like a VPN, opposite of conventional, but he can tell you all that fun stuff. It's Aaron Wemple. Aaron, thanks so much for joining us here on Zack and Evan.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell us about what clean law is and what exactly it is.
Well, clean law isn't your conventional family law that you think about, like going to court, like a boxing match, in the Coliseum, fighting with each other. It's more like a organic, natural law that families can practice by themselves outside of court while they're going through that we call overlapping hostility in court. It's kind of safer for the children.
So it's kind of like a way of experiencing, trying to get through the downfalls of what happens during a court hearing with family members, in a sense, and trying to guide somebody through that.
Exactly, because that situation is so traumatic on people that actually the law professor at Louisiana College of Law calls it a great way to mitigate the effects on children during that rough time in their life. Think of it like their parents going through that process like two cars in a head-on collision, but the child somehow is buckled into both seats. This is like a car seat, or like an extra safe car seat for those children while their parents are ramming each other.
Not like that, though. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So when you go about
not like that.
Not like that.
Yeah. So when you go into this, what are some of the things that you look at? What are some of the practices that you have in order to make it safer for the kids?
Well, the number one thing that we've been gathering, like that's impressionable in our community with like the TV stations and the CASA social workers, is like we document the achievements that the children are accomplishing during that difficult time in their life. Say they get an A on a report card. Well, then that file is documented. They go up in front of the meeting and they're like on the board and show off their A in class or their A report card. And then that document goes in their safety file, which is different than the court files, because court files are like, we call those the adult fighting files. That's where the fighting happens. But this is like the child safety file, which we document everything positive that's going on in that child's life during that situation. As a branch, it's like positive psychology, a way of encouraging them extra during that extra difficult time in their life.
Wow, that is amazing. How did you come up with this idea to kind of, I guess, in a sense, counsel the kids during the difficult time?
Well, I think it was through a traumatic experience of my own. I grew up, I went through a divorce whenever I was in second grade, and I always wished I could do something to help my parents, but I was just a little kid and I couldn't do anything about it. So I think I always had that desire since I was a kid. And then when I was older, I went to engineering school and I learned about the scientific laws of physics that we use to build things up, like skyscrapers and bridges, to get over hurdles, which is a totally different law than like the Coliseum law, which both sides are trying to essentially tear each other down and make each other worse people. So when I went through my own divorce as an adult, I saw everything through a scientific lens, and it just didn't make sense to me. But then when I finally realized it's two different types of law practices, then I realized that that's why, because we're educated in two different fields of the law. And at the same time, I could see things that they could be doing different that would make it safer for children, although they would never accept them. But then I always had that extra desire to make things safer outside of the court system.
Yeah, and that's something that I think it's good that you came into that, because there are so many people, and we see marriages now and we see how common divorce is, but that shouldn't be any excuse for, what impact it has on a kid, especially, you said it happened when you were in second grade. So, that's kind of a molding part of your life. My parents got divorced when I was 2. So I was kind of in the situation where I didn't know any differently, if that makes sense. But there are so many instances where kids are just so affected, and there's and a lot of times you can't even tell that the kid is affected. It's just kind of some psychological stuff you have to dig into.
Oh, absolutely. Or they don't want to tell their parents because they know their parents are already going through a hard time. They don't want to add burdens to their parents. Yeah, so they keep that stuff bottled up inside, and it just sits there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the children who go through those situations, they're like 3 times more likely to end up, unfortunately, like in prison or with early teen pregnancies or with behavioral issues at school or on some kind of intoxicant. They really they really express that they have problems going through those situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely leads to more reckless behavior, and the studies show it too.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
So what kind of studies did you do, to kind of form this clean law?
Well, when my friend was going through a trial, my case had just ended, so I was ready to start helping other people go through that system. Because I felt like if I had a support group around me, that things wouldn't have been so bad on me and my children. So I started helping him just as a friend thing to do, and then other people started going along with us and walking with us because they were going through the same thing, and we realized that if we do this together, it's not as hard on us, and it's not as hard on our children. So we kind of just did it as a community service thing, and then it grew to the point where high school students were volunteering to do these child safety file practices with children who were in the foster care system. And our county in Illinois has the second highest number of children in foster care. So it was making a big community impact. And then I paid for all those safety files out of my pocket. So then I'm like, well, we got to raise money somehow to keep on doing this and grow the projects. So that's why I turned it into a social enterprise. And now we're trying to make a little bit of money doing it by teaching other people how to practice and be child safety file agents on their own.
And how many cases have you dealt with, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, on a county level, I would say 200 to 300.
Wow.
But then we also work with legislators at the state level. So we're trying to impact cases all over the state, even in Missouri now. So it could have a huge impact at the legislative level as well.
So there are big plans, obviously, for this to try to not only get out of county, but go statewide and then hopefully national at some point, right?
Yep. We've already been meeting with representatives in D.C. and trying to figure out how they work bills through the system and see if we could find sponsors in that arena as well to help us move this child safety file practice forward. Yep.
So like, what's the big pitch then? To try to get more active, legislation surrounding this, or even in general, just getting more eyes on this type of program that can definitely help kids who are in need of this type of service.
I would say just awareness. That's probably the biggest thing. And then more people to actually practice what we're doing, more people to get involved and learn how to do it for themselves. That would make a huge difference. But right now, I mean, we're just new and we're not well known. So it's hard to get people interested in the way we do things. So just awareness and getting people interested in doing it on their own. Because the biggest part of it is just people practicing these safety files at their home. It's like almost like a scrapbook. You just catch your child doing something great, take a picture of it, share it with the community, and file it. And it's that simple. And just the fact that children know that their parents are caring about them and are doing this for them makes a world of difference. Can you imagine if you was a child going through that situation? You had a parent who actually was looking out for you. Even if you couldn't be with that parent, you knew that they were still tracking you throughout your life. You knew they were still seeing the good things that you were doing. I think that would make all the difference in the world for a child. That child is probably less likely to end up in prison or in those bad social circumstances than the child who had a parent practicing a child safety file with them.
So if there's anybody who's listening in out there who are kind of going through the same thing, going through the divorce, or or a kid who's just listening, who is just who kind of is having that struggling feeling, that bears over them when parents are going through a divorce, what is some advice that you would have for them?
The first thing, and especially for children, is just realize you're not alone. And then children don't have to keep these things bottled up, and parents don't have to walk through these things alone. But then if they want some extra some extra help, they could go to our website at cleanlaw.today, and there's 3 easy steps to get involved with practicing these child safety files to get certified, and it could be just part of their life.
Exactly. And it's great the way the world is right now, that everyone is open to talking about everything. And that's a real great thing we're in right now, whether it comes to mental health or things like that. It's there's definitely the stigma is getting, it's getting ended for sure. Aaron, where can people go? And, you mentioned the website before, but where can people go again to find out all this information and see how they can get involved?
They can visit www.cleanlaw.today. There's a wealth of information on there, and then there's 3 easy steps if you'd like to get certified. to practice child safety files. And yeah, like you said, maybe some people don't have a very hard experience going through a divorce or a separation issue, but then maybe some people do and need this extra help.
Aaron Wemple, again, appreciate the time today. Great stuff. Great thing you're doing to make things hopefully a little bit easier for everyone going through a very common thing that I don't think we've got to the bottom of how to kind of help people yet. So this is a great step in that process. And thanks again for joining us here on Zack and Evan.
Hey, you're welcome. I love your show. Keep up the good work.
Miss the show? Catch Zack and Evan every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on Zradio Llive.